We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. In 2022, we moved into Sunhill Farm and started building our next boat from scratch. We're close to 1.5 years into the build now, and there have been many big jobs in building the hull. During the first months of this year, we have sanded and faired the hull to get a smooth surface. And now we're preparing the final steps for our biggest operation yet, to turn the hull over.
It will be like a square wheel where the whole hull sits in the middle of that. It's a pretty cold morning, and today spring has definitely taken a break. We got some snow last night, so a bit too cold for my taste this time of the year, end of April. Today I plan to continue working on the cradle boxes. I got the skeleton for the front piece finished last Friday, and today I'm planning to start working on the aft box. It's quite a lot of work with them, since they should be able to carry quite a lot of weight. Not initially, since the hull is not that heavy now, but over time it will become pretty heavy. So I'll have to take that into account already now when I'm building these boxes, because it will be hard to change that later on.
The whole box gets glued together with epoxy, screws and wooden dowels, and it also gets reinforced corners. Then Johan builds a grid in the center of the box to deal with the compression load. In a few days, it went from snow to full spring. And Vera learned how to ride the bike.
Du ska cykla förbi!
Our little sailor girl is getting big.
So I'm almost finished with the front cradle, the front box. As you can see, I've added this web of plywood here in the middle. I will probably add some more reinforcement here on the sides before I will cover this whole surface here with plywood, and then on top of that a soft mat. I think this is strong enough for the hull when it's stationary now to deal with the compression loads. The problem is that this will also act as a cart when we're taking the hull back in and back out in a few years. And then it's a different story, because then we have wheels, one in each corner, and then this box will act more like a beam. And then we will have bending forces here in the middle that this box will need to be able to cope with. I don't think it will be a big problem with this box. The bigger problem is the box of the cradle in the stern, since the span or the width of that box is much wider than this one. This one is 2.3 meters, and the one in the stern will be 4.3 meters from point to point. So that's a pretty wide span that beam or box will need to cope with without deflecting too much. So what I will do is that I will add some steel here on the sides to make these boxes more stiff. And like I said, that will be no problem with this box. But even if we add quite a lot of steel on the box in the stern, 4.3 meters, when you only have like this amount of space to work with, that's a pretty big span with the amount of weight that we'll be putting on it when it's acting as a cart. So I'm thinking we will reinforce the boxes for now so they can cope with the weight that we have in the hull at the moment. But then once it's time to take the hull out of here in a few years, I'm thinking we will need to add even more steel on the sides. But I don't want to do that now, since we're placing the boxes up on the hull before we're turning the hull over. So we don't want the boxes to be too heavy. So I'm thinking we'll add even more reinforcement later on. But it's good to have that in mind now when I'm really designing these boxes on the fly, really. We're also going to have steel plates underneath here to deal with the compression loads when we're using jacks, and also the wheels when we're mounting them. So steel underneath there, steel on the sides, and of course there will be a floor in here once we that I will mount from the underside, but I will do that after I have added the steel, because I will glue the steel in place, but also use nuts and bolts, so I need to be able to access this area. Yeah, it will be quite heavy to get these boxes up on the hull now once they're finished. So I'm probably going to take up a hole in the roof to get hold of some of the rafters up there, and then we can put up some tackle in the roof so we can hoist these up there without too much problem.
The first cradle box was done. Now on to the bigger one.
So I'm about halfway done with the second box. As you can see, this one is much longer or wider. We will have an extra machine skate to support the box here in the middle when we move the boat back in. We're going to put steel plates here on the sides, 120 millimeter tall and 8 millimeter thick. And like I said, 2 extra beams here in the middle. So it will be plenty strong in itself, but even so, there will be some flex, especially in the future when the boat is at this full weight.
Vera and I planted potatoes, and I also sowed some vegetables. Finally it's starting. While Johan finished the box, I cut the pieces of the carpet we were going to place on top.
Yeah, both the cradle boxes are more or less finished now. The only thing left is to install these steel plates at the ends here. This is where the wheels are going to sit later on once it's time to get the hull back into the barn again, once we have flipped it over. Yeah, I think it turned out really good with this mat. That will even out any pressure points in the hull a bit. And now I'm only hoping that the radius that we have here, that it's really the correct shape that we have. There will of course be some deviations because we have added some mat, and you know, it's not exactly like the hull shape, but I think we're pretty close, and if not, we can always move the boxes a bit more to the stern or to the bow to make a better fit to the actual shape of the hull.
Johan took up a hole in the ceiling to access the beams and went up to tie a sling to one of them. Then we started hoisting the aft box, the biggest one, and first we needed to turn it upside down. It weighs around 120 kilos, so it was too heavy for us to lift on our own.
Inga till om emellan.
Dra i den här änden för att du ska få den.
Så ska jag svinga, så då står det bara för att ha släpp på medan jag
för att du ska få den dit, på den sidan. Ja, och det här är bak.
Ja.
Johan began to pull the end of the box closer to the hull, and it was really heavy.
Så håll emot.
Ja.
We placed the blanket underneath the box to protect the hull.
Så tajt som möjligt. Den ligger ju lite...
Den ska ju med
lite sned.
Den är sned, ja.
Ja. Och dra väck filten på andra sidan.
Så. Så.
Ja. Kolla var den passar exakt bäst, men jag tycker det ser rätt jäkla bra ut. Liksom.
Svårt att se när den ligger upp och ner.
Nej, men kom och kolla så det är... Jag menar, formen är ju exakt och det är likadant på andra sidan. Man skulle kunna ta ett vattenpass här och kolla. Okej, den ska lite över på den sidan.
Ditåt?
Ja, så du drar i den. Det är bara att röra upp spaken där liksom.
Och så är
ja, precis så ska du göra. Stopp. Det blir lite för mycket. Stopp. Nej, så bra ut.
Fan vad coolt. Fan vad bra de här kättingspelen var.
Ja. Yeah, it was quite a lot of work getting it up here yesterday, but I'm really pleased with the result and that it fits so snug against the hull. Would have been a big downer if this radius for some reason wouldn't have been correct. So now I just need to add some steel here on the sides and the bottom part, and I might do some reinforcement inside here as well. And then later on today we're going to lift up the smaller box up front, and hopefully that will be a little bit easier than this one. Some of you might wonder why this box sits, why we don't have it further aft on the hull. We could have made the box thicker by doing that, and making it more rigid that way. But the reason for that is that we want to have access to where the propeller shaft is coming out and also where the rudder is going to sit, so we can work with that also when the hull is right side up without having this box being in the way. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks a lot for watching, and we hope to see you again next Friday. And a big thank you to all of you who support our videos in different ways. And you can do that by becoming a patron or buying some of our merch. So, see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.